On today's PMEA's Take Note podcast, we are talking about PCMEA, the collegiate arm of PMEA. Hello, I'm Mark Despotakis. Welcome to this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. Today, we are spotlighting collegiates and collegiate music education members, and another acronym. We have, entirely too many acronyms in our world, right? So the other one you've probably heard is PCMEA, the Pennsylvania Collegiate Music Educators Association. So kind of a subset of what we do at PMEA. And we're so excited today to talk about what they're up to, maybe get a little bit of the pulse of what's going on with college students. And so I'm really excited to bring in a couple of folks who are instrumental currently in PCMEA. Ellie, Vito, she is the current president of PCMEA, a senior music education and performance major, correct?
Yes, yeah.
At Marywood University. And Kelly Gumble, who is an adjunct professor of music education at Westchester University. And for what we're talking about today, she is the PCMEA statewide advisor. So a lot of work done by both of you. Delighted to have you with us today to talk collegiate music education.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's start with, like I said, the acronyms abound in our world, right? And people might hear PCMEA. Let's talk about like an overview of PCMEA and kind of what it is, and then maybe I'd be curious for your perspectives on like the value you see of being involved in PCMEA. I'll start out there. Whoever wants to go with it first.
Yeah. So our big overall goal is to provide leadership opportunities, professional development opportunities, and networking opportunities for college students through the state level and through our 25 active chapters, which is the biggest number we've had in a while.
Yeah, 25. That's great. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's awesome that we have that many music ed programs in the state.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
tell me, before we go to Kelly, tell me the value that you see then as a student.
I feel like I wouldn't have gotten a lot of like the organizational and networking experience and leadership experience that I have gotten at Marywood if it wasn't for my PCMEA chapter. Like, I know each chapter is different, but all the chapters offer a different perspective and more of an inside look on how things are organized, how we can connect with our colleagues, and how we can, like, on my end, run festivals and run volunteering opportunities and things like that.
Yeah. Kelly, how about from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal organization for students across the state of Pennsylvania to get an opportunity for leadership and networking both within their local chapters at their universities. So, each chapter can create events that are unique and specific and meaningful to their membership in their area at their school. But also it's this wonderful network of chapters that can connect across the state, and they connect at the region level and they connect at the state level, and that provides additional leadership opportunities that maybe come with a little bit more of a broad scope. So you can become a region coordinator and then provide leadership to people in a little bit of a wider range, and then like Ellie and the executive committee, what they're doing at the state level is even another step up of leadership opportunities that provide lots of wonderful experience, and then also incredible networking opportunities, getting connected to some of the most prominent music educators in the state and the people who are making things run centrally at PMEA as well.
Yeah, and I'll just make one other additional comment to that. In the past few years, we've had PCMEA member students come to Washington, D.C. with us and be part of NAFME's Collegiate Advocacy Summit. So they're getting some great experience at that summit, meeting college students around the country, but then they're hanging out with some national leaders in the profession. And then they're going to Capitol Hill with us, which is just fascinating to see college students who at that first meeting are super nervous about this, but then by the end of the day they're ready to run for Congress themselves. So it's a cool thing that this offers. Okay, so let's kind of step back a little bit from PCMEA a little bit. Let's just talk about what what students, we talk so much about what K to 12 students are facing now, and it's just so different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20, 30, whatever, you keep adding on. I think what's lost in the conversation a lot of time is what are the issues facing college students, and how is it different from, Kelly, when you were there, when I was there, when my parents were there, whatever. So I'm curious to hear, what are some of the top issues facing collegiates now, music ed or non-music ed, just in general, and what are, that maybe people don't realize, I guess.
I think one of the top issues I have had and that I hear about still is time management. How do we find time to practice or require X amount of hours a day and work and go to class and do classwork and assignments? And it's honestly like it's something we struggle with throughout our entire collegiate career because as we go on, there's more and more kind of that we have to do and have to be responsible for. And it's still something I hear about every day too.
Yeah, Kelly, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think time management is a huge piece of it. If you look at what is asked of collegiate music education majors, they're trying to hone their craft as musicians and advance their level of musicianship and practice what's needed for their lessons, be prepared for whatever ensembles they're participating in, and at the same time, cross over the line to educator and try to make sure that they're building those skills and networking appropriately and preparing themselves to be able to move, into the professional world. And I would see that I would say that I see the same thing. And I think straddling sort of that role as student and that role as educator can provide a really big challenge. How to weight the importance of certain things, and there are only so many hours in a day, so how are you going to make sure that you're covering everything that needs to be covered? And I would say that piece of that was there when I was in school, and probably when you were in school as well. But I think one of the things that I see is a little bit different now. A couple of things. I think one, just the financial factor of now going to a university, and the tuition costs and the housing costs are significantly higher than what I faced when I went to school. So most of these students, on top of managing all of those responsibilities for their academics, are also having to work and provide for themselves in a lot of ways during that time. I think the other piece of it is I see a lot of collegiate students now who are very cognizant of boundaries and maintaining positive mental health, very aware of the possibility for mental health struggles, and focusing a lot on trying to maintain that as well. So I see that as a very healthy step in the right direction. But that's another component. It's another thing to balance while trying to handle all of the responsibilities.
I hear a lot about it's so much more complicated to complete a music ed degree in a 4-year time span. And I wonder, I had some folks have told me along the way, well, it's because there are so many gen ed requirements at our school, and then there's all the music ed requirements and then the ed requirements. I'm sure that's a piece of it, but now as you're answering these questions, I'm thinking, well, yeah, but also maybe a student is not taking as large of a credit load because they have to work. So in the long run, they're actually then staying at school maybe one more semester than they planned, but they had to work. But then in the long run, it's actually costing them more money.
Yeah,
because of that.
Yeah, I'm in my 5th year, just
okay,
because I was on track, and then there were, like you said, more gen eds, and I had to work and things like that. So I ended up having to take a whole extra year. And going into years 3, 4, and 5, I don't know if it's like this at every school, but at my school, tuition rose exponentially. And so then on top of my already 18 credit course load that I had been taking for the past 4 years, I have to work 20 hours a week at least. So it's been tough to balance that, and like Kelly said, my mental health and my physical health and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so I mean, we talk about that so much for currently practicing music educators about that mental health piece, but yeah, I guess we want to train pre-service teachers for the real world, but I don't know that this is kind of how we want to do it in this way, that we're stressing you out, and because that is crazy. I mean, college is full time, really, and then you're doing a 20-hour work week on top of that. And fair to say that that is pretty standard among your peers?
Yeah, it definitely is. I even have peers who have to work full time on top of the credit load, and I don't know how they do it
Right.
because there's some weeks where I'm working 20 hours a week and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through. And my friends who are doing the same things and working 40 hours a week, they just inspire me to keep going because if they could do it, I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess there is some supportive role then when you have an organization like PCMEA, to say, look, it's not just me. I'm not the only one that has to do this. I mean, that doesn't make it any better when you're working all those hours, but at least you know that you're not the only one in that boat. Yeah, so that's I think that's really important for folks listening to this to understand all the pressures that you truly are under, and actually in some ways that might ease up when you actually get your first job, and hopefully when there's also a paycheck attached, which is a good thing instead of paying. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say more on top of that. I do in my work at Westchester, I do a lot of work with student teachers. I supervise and I serve as the field placement and student teaching coordinator for music. And I think that's one of the trickiest times. You've gone through all of this training, you've gone through all of this practice, and you're finally getting out into the classroom and getting to put it all into practice. But you are working a full-time teaching job for 15 weeks and not receiving pay for it. And often many student teachers working every evening to try to make up for that, while lesson planning and while preparing to teach in the classroom. And I think, the state is doing some things to try to help out with that, which is great. We have student teaching grants in place now. And we've seen students starting to take advantage of that, which is fantastic. But I think that's another piece where, the most intensive part of a music education degree happens at the very, very end, and can often be the biggest barrier for a lot of students, for sure.
That's such a wonderful advertisement for advocating for those student teacher grants from the state. And PMEA has advocated for those, and now that they're in place, we've advocated for that funding to continue to grow. So I would certainly, and we'll call PCMEA into service, this spring when we're advocating for that again. Like, if they can find time when they're not working or working 20 hours to come to Harrisburg with us, but even if they can't, join our email campaign. Like if you're a collegiate, your stories, like, Ellie, your story here. Yeah, I had to add that 5th year. And so if I can get a grant like this, boy, that just makes my life, a whole lot easier. That's something that policy really need to hear.
Because I think more people need to get it because I applied twice and I was denied twice. And so I know not a lot of people are getting it and there's a really high demand for it, but I just think that a lot more people who are in similar positions should have access to something like that because Pennsylvania wants teachers. We need teachers.
Yeah. And it is amazing the amount of coalitions that are out there now that are saying that exact same message, and there are more and more legislators from both sides of the aisle who realize that now, and we obviously realize the issue is finding the money. It's it's not just under somebody's mattress somewhere, as I always say, but these stories are absolutely crucial. So even for like Ellie, that's like, I'm definitely calling on you to help tell the story in the spring because, yeah, you were denied this because they just ran out of money. Well, but you're still willing to say, but I know that it's important. It would help. So that's huge. All right, let me shift gears a little bit here. Pretty much the signature thing that PMEA does is the annual conference. And so we'll be out in Kalahari this year, which is an awesome facility everybody loves. PCMEA, huge presence there, of course. Huge percentage of the attendees are collegiate students, which is fantastic. So it's great for networking and professional development. You guys always do some special things and try to make sure there's things for PCMEA. So I kind of throw out a couple conference questions and tackle it however you want. What can we look for from PCMEA at the conference? And let's say you're a first-time PCMEA student who's coming to the conference. what's the advice? What can you expect from that perspective?
So for first time people, I think it's important to keep in mind that it is a very similar experience to what the teachers are getting and what the professionals are getting. Like, you get to attend sessions, you get to you can go to concerts, you can go observe rehearsals. And a lot of college students don't know that as long as you have your PMEA badge, the rehearsals at the rehearsal sites and at Kalahari are open for you to observe. You can sign up for all the sessions the same way, go to the sessions the same way. But there's also the extra stuff that PCMEA is doing on top of that. We have our annual in-person meeting. I will have dates and times for that hopefully soon at Kalahari, where we bring everybody together for at least one time in person. And then we're doing a lot of volunteering stuff. Our president-elect Todd McGregor and I have been working a lot with Mary Lynn Peters, the All-State coordinator, and we're going to have volunteer opportunities with registration, with setting things up and working with equipment managers, going off-site and doing some of that stuff for rehearsals. So we're really excited to be doing a lot more this year and have a lot more people involved.
Yeah, and Kelly, what do you see about, from your students that go?
Yeah, I think the greatest piece of advice that I would give to somebody going, especially for the first time, is just do as much as you can. Really take advantage of those days. They are full days, and they can be mentally draining at times, but it's once a year that we get to be in the same place as every other music educator in our state. See some incredible presentations from experts, see some of the best ensembles perform in concerts. And Kalahari's fun, the water slides are great, but really using that time to get as much out of that as possible, as many networking opportunities. One of my favorite things that we do with our Westchester students that attend, and I would encourage other universities and chapters that participate to do something similar. We tend to bring together a group of our students attending from our PCMEA chapter with alumni from our university who are there just attending the conference. And we tend to, we typically will do like a dinner gathering of that group, and, just an opportunity to network, to meet people and ask questions. And it's something that, we really can only do in so many locations, and that one where everybody's in one place at the same time. So just try to take advantage of all of those moments, because, there's not another place to do something like that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Ellie, you talked a little bit about the opportunities for collegiates to work with the All-State program. There's another opportunity for them. We started this last year, and we're going to do it again. We started actually this year in 2024. We'll do it again in 2025. Some social media interns from PCMEA members, and there'll be some more information on that coming out, and we'll make sure that Ellie gets that out to PCMEA members. But it's a great way to experience you get to experience the conference just as you normally would. We're just asking you to do a little social media, which college kids are doing anyway. And then you get some free conference registration as part of it. More details on that coming out soon. But I would just echo all your comments about take advantage of it. Like Kelly, you said, everybody's there. So if you're a college student, there's somebody that you've always wanted to meet, that's do it. That's the chance. Someone gave me the advice many years ago who was mid-career and wanted to meet somebody famous in the career field I was in at the time. And they were like, well, you go do it because you're the college student. You can go do it. It's weird if I go do it. Right. So I give that advice to college students, take that opportunity to do that for sure.
And there are just there's so many different things to see and participate in. There's so many different types of sessions. Whatever you're trying to get out of it, you're going to be able to find sessions that are geared towards that. And the exhibit hall, getting in there and meeting people from different organizations, maybe that are local to an area you might be targeting to work at some point, different vendors and things. Just pack it as full as you can, because there's so many different opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've I think done a pretty good pitch on why you should be involved in PCMEA and why you should come to the conference and be part of that. All right. But let's say you're a collegiate student out there in Pennsylvania, and you're like, okay, I didn't know about this, or this is exciting. I want to be part of this. I knew we had it, but I didn't know what it was. How do people get involved?
So if you do have an active chapter, you can join the chapter at your university, and then through that you'll automatically be involved and in communication with everything. I'm always in communication with the chapter presidents, but we've actually had a school or two that doesn't have an active chapter and they want to be involved. So we talk to them, talk to our advisor, and their advisor is on our list, and they are sent all the same information and given all the same opportunities, and they're invited to join us on all of our meetings and things like that too. So even if you don't have an active chapter, like, reach out. You're more than welcome.
And your meetings at the conference, that will all be on the conference schedule on the website and in the app.
Mhm.
So you'll be able to find out when those are. And yeah, like if you're not a member of your local chapter, still come to the meeting and, you know, ask some folks about it. For sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you're around, come to the meeting. Like, we want it to be the most packed one yet.
Yeah, awesome. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. Awesome. Well, Ellie and Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today to talk a little bit about PCMEA and for all the work you're doing to grow it and make it what it is.
Thank you.
And thanks you
so
all
much
for joining us on this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. We want to thank our sponsors, the Grove City College Department of Music and Zeswitz Music. See you next time.